Well, what happened was at the early age, like I said, at 17, I became a hairdresser, and I worked in my hometown, Tampa, Florida, for a very short time. I worked there for about 6 months, and and then I went to London for a while before I went to New York. I decided I wanted to go to England. Back in those days, everything sort of neat and groovy came from London, so I went there to take a class with Vidal Sassoon back in those days. I was 18 years old, and I ended up loving it, and I ended up getting a job there, and I stayed there for 2 years. So after that, I came back to my hometown for about a year or so, and it was hard going back to Tampa, Florida after living in London. So that's when I decided to move to New York City. And my brother was living there already at the time. So I moved to New York City, and within a week of being in Manhattan, I got my first job in New York, which was the beauty salon at Saks Fifth Avenue. And my haircuts, I'll never forget, went from $12 in Tampa, Florida to $55 in New York City. 5 days later, I went from $12 haircuts to $55 haircuts. And my first several years I lived in Manhattan, I worked at the beauty salon at Saks Fifth Avenue. But the main reason that I actually moved to New York, besides I wanted to live there, was that I was working very closely with John and Suzanne Chadwick back in those days. And back in those days, they were premier educators, haircutting instructors, and by working there, I was able to become a trainer for them, and I learned to teach, and I basically taught haircutting classes all over the world in the early days. And that's why I started learning how to teach, and that's why I got interested in the educational end of the business.